virus is out of control and we're facing school closures again. Half-jers don't work. It's time to make vaccines available to all educators and frontline workers.
Tell the educators the vaccines come in half doses.
A message
to teenagers, and without those social interactions, many of them, including my daughter, became depressed.
But this year, many Chicago seniors didn't have a chance to become team captains or editors of their school's newspaper. Stuck at home, Lasky says, her dad had also missed out on some academic opportunities.
My high school experience was characterized by my work in my high school theater department, and I lived, breathed with those kids.
The losses are far greater for seniors who had to get jobs to help their parents pay bills or who've lost family members to the pandemic. This year has also been hard on many school staff like Jacqueline Smith, a school counselor at Clemente High School.
Part of the satisfaction of the job is seeing a person, you know, smile or have that moment where you can tell that they understand what you're explaining.
With remote instruction, she can see the students' faces when their cameras are off. Now that high school's opened, some students want to bring back prom and graduation ceremonies. Schools are allowed to host limited in-person end-of-the-year activities. Smith says she wants to help seniors regain their sense of confidence. She also wants them to experience closure and a chance to say goodbye to their classmates and teachers after a year like no other. For NPR News, I'm Adriana Cardona-Maguigad in Chicago.
You're listening to All Things Considered.
So,
welcome back to On Point with Al.
So we hit the trifecta to piss off Chomo, girls' voice on the music, the sexual assault investigation, which I said I was waiting for. That was an hour and 15 minutes to get to that part of the radio show there. And I lit a joint, so Chomo lost his fucking mind.
Daniel Sylvan.
That's what happens when you get stalkers on the internet who somehow nobody wants to take away their admin creds. I don't know how that happens, but okay.
World Life Master by the World Bridge Federation and how he is at the plot of this underworld of the world of bridge.
Oh,
I mean, exposing this in the world of bridge. See, I know nothing about it, so I'm a real newbie, but I understand.
Patent. I went to light the joint and shit went crazy on my screen again. I'm supposed to care. I don't care if pedophiles don't like me. Why would I care?
I'm from the West End.
This idiot's probably like it too much.
I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Yo, I'm coming straight from the West End. Move from the Jane to the West End. Watch how you talk when you walk through my hoe, cause you know that my niggas be pressing. Heavy artillery weapons. Ain't really into the questions. I ain't condoning the violence. The youngins are wildin', they move kind of reckless. Got the keys. Police stay patting niggas. Stay cheese. I'm familiar face taxing niggas. Safety, didn't even wanna slap the nigga. He made me. Ain't nobody telling me nothing. I knew from a youngin' that I be the one I hit something. Now all of these rappers is bugging. You live in the birds and you act like you came up from nothing. Shout out to my niggas on the plaza. Lane to connection, Southside Gaza. When I roll my backwood, better have rubber. I never leave the house without my iPhone charger. Wallahi, my Molly's will rob ya. Abdi Muhammad Mustafa. African man, that's my barber. Jamaican man, that's my shopper. Tell them the truth. Tell them the truth. These rappers, they lie in the booth. Lie in the booth. What's that got the realest? Just look at the proof. I'm living proof. The city's so litty cause we got the juice. We got the juice. So we got the juice. I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? I'm from the West End. I'm from the West End. Nigga, what you saying? Bench strip, jungle to the Rex we deep. I can tell a West End nigga by the way you speak, Birds tripping loud in the hood, always lose they beats. Know that shotty would pop.
and producer is Joe Richmond, and he is here to look back on 20.
Well, it said he scammed $6 million and then was that
What I mean, looking for me. The chick I got that degree. What the
I'm over here fucking with TF Travis and Floyd. I'm on a block right now. Drinking. Is that the phone?
Hey, fuck y'all. Hey, my arm hurt.
How you doing?
You alright?
Bro. Come on, chill.
What the police? I gotta go back to my house. For what? For what? I ain't did nothing.
What you been looking for me? What I do? Gun. It's a wrap.
I might die for this shit, nigga. All them homicides just on Crip, nigga. Gang banging that Crip shit. Niggas calling up cause of them blue shades. My peoples, it was right behind, and ain't no nigga pulling up in no new rave. It was cool to the gang raid. Now these tough guys just never act right. Blood can fill a whole bathtub. Let these blood brothers get baptized. Blacklisted on a bad guy, plus some dark skin, so I'm the black guy. Never see me like black ice, and we still pack cannons at shack side. Niggas swear that they're the man. Now the lights can't brother like, really what you talking about? Niggas say you in the can, try to kill them on the track, let the people still track them up. I ain't trust anybody that'll walk around. Pop kind, only reason that they popping out. Niggas skins on my shorts like crocodiles. They ain't know they fucking with me like a crocodile. Gang. Yelling that shit that you never been a part of. I know niggas I got waiting for the startup. D-Rose and they ain't even put his guard up. Not one person goes hot for the city on a mainstream level. Talk about the type of sense product. Tell me if they ever seen a bite that is out of. Not me out and mad that I got it. CCP real like a nigga just a product. Think he's styling on you for just seeing him in his product. Big gun bust from a nigga like a maga. Party next door, I need a shot in a vodka. Tell Jay Prince I don't give a fuck, yo. Fighting for a rap with a cut though. Quitting in a round and a touch flow. But they agree to keep it on the hush though.
I'm blued up, I'm crewed up. For the F43G, I'm chewed up. Any nigga that really want it, I'ma bomb it. 32 shots, 10 skeletons out the closet. You don't wanna be back down with your belly up. 4 double law niggas hopping on the heavy truck. We give bullets, but niggas don't give any bucks. Mac ain't auto, but I'll show you how to sell me buck. Type of strap, you may need to get rid of me. Really take headshots, so who's guillotine? You ain't not really banging these streets. Got heat from the west, but I'm banging the east, nigga. Crip. I rep a gang that you never been a part of. I put that on my mother and I put that on my daughter. If you diss one of my brothers, then your blacks gonna shine up. I'm like Welvin, yelling out God, so you ain't gotta ask Biggie Smalls who shot him. I got a Biggie pump that'll work when I pop up. Had to move work in the slums just to guap up. Now I hit the club, tell the bartender top up. It's locks well, so for lock, you'll get shot up. Now I hit the club, tell the bartender top up. It's locks well, so for lock, you'll get shot up.
I might die for this shit, nigga. All them homicides just on.
Man, I'm down for some shit. When it comes to the grind, I'm went to bars, just flat with a flip. And I'm back on my shit. I'm a peanut butter strap in the whip. Man, I almost made it back to the crib. But it's back to the strip. With a trap to the flip. Little nigga keep a hammer. And a bag full of shit. That little nigga, yes, I run drugs. I used to have a lot of fun when I bust guns. Never did I trust love. I lost a lot of friends out of my friends. Switch you. The info got crazy. That's why I stay with a pistol. Stay by my hip too. Stay to the fix an issue. These dreams don't be tipping to get placed in the tissue. Deuce, bullets, face the nipple out the baby mouth. I rip the tap the same size as a baby doll. I ain't gotta slide my nigga, he got skated on. I was in his crib, like the bed that his baby's on. He's hurting like I need me a Tylenol. I made a miss, but two pussies didn't write it off. I think I seen him, big homie, cut the lights off. Someone get that voice in the service, it's just a radar. Fucking five guns, so five close to the five guns. I was smoking blacks and I seen black like I was making wax for the cheesecake like I'm dying.
Vito Rizzuto was the head of the Montreal Mafia. He was a man with many enemies, but Rizzuto died of natural causes.
Mafia. A secret order dedicated to Cosa Nostra, this thing of ours. You violate what you know about this life, and you're gonna burn in hell like the saint is burning in your hands.
Ruckus. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. Cause I'm getting on now, niggas wanna hate. Cause I'm getting on now, they wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Had more respect for the crack, not rap as people got. Cause they blast you with a Mac and that's that. It's fucked up how niggas want my head over fame. It's a shame, cause I love their minds. Insane like G, but not quite like me. One of a kind, on my grind. Fuck yeah, I'm a hood hopper. I'm well known all over. My niggas is connected with AJ, every day's payday. Mervin will kill you if you kill me and burn your kids. Paranoid, keep a 9 mil, make your gut spill. Lay there in a pool full of blood, you're a fraud, your life's on pause. Mad, that mine is next. Don't ain't heard none yet, life dedication. Malcolm X invasion. Black Zion and Hunter Diva plus striking. The only one there when I touch my first million. Fuck your reasons, you don't listen. Be strong, my career is in God's hand, not mine, and definitely not yours. We're hard to the core, dear Lord. We've been here before. Mission impossible, survive death more than 20 times. Then talk crimes, you're worth a dime. B.I.G. ready to die. Thug like Park 50 before he got shot. Waiting for them shots. Ain't afraid of nothing. Listen, little bitch, come get it. I can't be a conscious rapper. All my life be a gangster and mobster, fucking monster. Fuck you haters. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna hate, cause I'm getting on now. They wanna shoot me down, click, click, pow, pow. Niggas wanna.
Living Mi'kmaq and Donald Trump's
no face, kill it.
He's not an issue if the battle's full effect and the status members will get you. I'm back in action, slapping these raps who wanna act. As a matter of fact, it's slashing for slacking up on the set. Send him sentimental words like I'm a sensible cat. Sing a song and slice a bonus, it's a piece of my set. Set the traps cause I'm a savage, you the salmon I catch. 100 dead MCs in the thread of my net. The smell of death in my direction is starting to affect them. The fact of the matter is I'm a master, it's automatic. The audiomatic addict is at it cause I just had it with those who say the damage. I don't condone the domes who don't control and manage the blows to cause a panic, so step back. Give your head a shake and don't come back. Snap heads back till they cook up from right hooks and right hooks of demons. Oh, I need you to leave shook. Ever see a person scalped in the daylight? Imagine how we act in the middle of the night. A bunch of savages running through your city like a pack of rabid dogs. I'ma unleash the pities, pissing on your property, marking our territory after it gets. When it starts to get gory, murdering MC strings on the beat, cause getting murdered on the microphone is worse to me. Spinning high caliber, written above average, my lyrics are like algebra, getting that mathematics. Putting the clip in the automatic, pistol rebel strong static. I ain't never taking a break it off cause I ain't asthmatic. Always rolling up a pile of grass, you can laugh at your hope you got a doobie with some hash in your past. Take a couple of dabs and I'm passionate, smashing it, best ass up tap since the last visit.
To this recital, yes, I'm vital, never idle. We don't acquiesce and carry stress or harbor rivalry. Been grinding full strength, so we landed here. I'm gonna be my destiny. Conspires and continues to inspire me. My eyes and my mind remain open. It's like a black hole to the soul, and no, I'm not joking. It's real. I maintain and incorporate how I feel, where I'm from, why I'm here, check them out.
Reports filed by the commission tonight. Global's Dave Woodard has read through the details. Outdated and expired PPE that didn't get replaced, plans once in place after the SARS pandemic forgotten and set to the side. Just a couple of the main findings that the commission found during its grilling of provincial and medical health officials over long-term care preparedness in Ontario. It said that staffing and home infrastructure had been a problem before the pandemic that could have been addressed but weren't, as money had been dedicated to other projects. The commission also noted that while it's too soon to say exactly what the problem was that caused more deaths in long-term care during the second wave, it said that it's obvious some of the issues were too deeply ingrained to overcome. Dave Woodard, Global News. Well, Premier Ford says the borders are broken and is pushing Ottawa to tighten restrictions at international land crossings amid a COVID-19 surge. But Prime Minister Justin Trudeau says there are already tight controls at land borders, and Trudeau says a minority of cases have been seen in people coming into Canada. We are happy to continue to talk about strengthening the measures moving forward, and we will continue those conversations with all provincial premiers. But at the same time, we have seen that this third wave is very much around community transmission. Well, Ford says if it were up to him, he'd shut down Toronto's Pearson International Airport and the province's land borders to stop some travelers from exploiting loopholes in federal measures. Alongside concerns over the state of the province's borders, the Premier also dropped this during his virtual press conference today.
We face a fourth wave fueled by a vaccine-resistant variant.
Well, following the Premier's statement, many are wondering if such a scenario is possible. Epidemiologist Dr. Colin Furness says that yes, COVID can mutate, but doesn't do so out of nowhere.
It's important also to know that COVID actually mutates very slowly, right? So it's for an RNA virus, it's a very slow mutator. It's got a gene that actually slows down mutation. It's a
self-repairing
Well, Furness labels sports comments irresponsible and says if a situation like this were possible, Ford shouldn't be the one describing its intricacies. Reinforcements, meantime, have arrived to help care for Ontario's most critically ill. Members of the Canadian military are now providing key support at Toronto's Sunnybrook Hospital.
And they come from somewhere. They're
more details on Task Force Presidio.
A squad of more than 40 personnel, including critical care nurses, have been trained up over the last couple of days and are here to help out Sunnybrook's team.
Pandemic, no pandemic, when we have a chance to help fellow Canadians, we're all in.
Armed Forces personnel will back up and relieve Sunnybrook staff here in the mobile health unit, set up in tents in one of the parking lots. The MHU currently only has 8 patients, but is expected to see more from across the region. These are patients on the road to recovery.
Patients who have sort of been very sick, made it out of the ICU or out of a high care environment, and are now still requiring care, but are on an improving trajectory.
Soldiers will also assist with the most severe patients in the overburdened ICU here. This is the second time during the pandemic the military has assisted in Toronto. Last year, they were deployed to several long-term care homes to help manage multiple deadly outbreaks. Mark Carcassol, Global News.
Well, plans to distribute the first 300,000 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine next week are now on hold. This after Health Canada learned part of them were manufactured at a Maryland facility that messed up the ingredients in 15 million doses bound for the U.S. market. The facility was recently cited by the U.S. Food and Drug Administration for violations including cleaning and sterilization failures, the potential for cross-contamination, and failure to follow required protocols. Health Canada says the drug substance that makes up part of the J&J vaccine was actually produced at that plant and then shipped elsewhere for the vaccines to be finished. The federal regulator says it is seeking information from the FDA and J&J's pharmaceutical arm Janssen to determine if the 300,000 doses shipped to Canada meet required safety standards. And one of Toronto's best-known sports figures is facing serious allegations today. Roberto Alomar
got the Johnson & Johnson.
Baseball for allegations of sexual harassment. Global's Jason Chapman explains that Jay's organization is taking further actions against the Hall of Famer.
This is the moment in history you'll find if you Google Roberto Alomar's name.
Roberto Alomar hits it out off Dennis Eckersley in the top of the ninth.
That home run kept the Jays' 92 playoff dreams alive. Now Alomar's legacy is being rewritten. An investigation by Major League Baseball found Alomar violated the league's sexual misconduct policies. The unwanted approach was made back in 2014 while Alomar was working in the commissioner's office. The Jays are also out with a statement. They're severing all ties with their former Gold Glove second baseman. They'll remove Alomar from the Rogers Center's level of excellence, and they'll pull down the banner that hangs over the field displaying his number 12. Jason Chapman, Global News.
Well, Alamar is out with a statement of his own. He says he is disappointed, surprised, and upset, but he understands in the current social climate why Major League Baseball has taken this position. Miss the beginning of this newscast? Use your Alexa speaker to hear Toronto's top stories on demand. Set your flash briefing to play 640 Toronto. In sports, the Blue Jays are in action tonight in Dunedin, squaring off against the Orioles. The game now in the bottom of the fifth, and the Blue Jays leading the Braves 5-0. Checking your regional forecast from the Global News Weather Center, a special weather statement as well as a frost advisory are in effect by Environment Canada. Cloud cover and winds in excess of 80 kilometers an hour are expected to diminish overnight, and temperatures tonight, though, plummeting to a low of 0. I'm Darren Boland. This is Global News.
This is On Point with Alex Pearson on Global News Radio.
As a feminist prime minister with a feminist government, why didn't you ask if it was a Me Too complaint?
As we've said many, many times, as a government, we have always taken extremely seriously the responsibility to support anyone who comes forward. And supporting in this situation meant ensuring that this complaint was followed up by the proper authorities with the mandate to do that. Not followed up on by politicians, but by a rigorous process. That is what my office ensured.
That was the Prime Minister this morning on the defense, getting many questions about what he knew and when and why he didn't do more. He is or claims to be a feminist Prime Minister, and we get nothing but talking points and spin because his office did not live up to what he promised. Mercedes Stephenson is our Ottawa Bureau Chief, host of the West Block and breaker of military scandals now engulfing the Trudeau government. Mercedes, they're trying to turn the page by announcing yet another review into sexual misconduct. Have they?
Well, the survivors who I talked to had mixed feelings. I would describe it as skeptical but hopeful. They really hope things will change. I think that Louise Arbour is someone who commands a lot of respect, but there's a lot of frustration that it's another review by a Supreme Court justice. And I actually talked to Madame Arbour yesterday, and she was very blunt about this. She said, when they first called me, I kind of thought and said to them, well, didn't you just do this? Why do you need me? Madame Deschamps, my former colleague, she just did this. And then she decided to get involved because she said, new things had come to light. For example, when we launched the Op Honor stuff, we didn't know about what was happening with the leadership in the forces. So she decided to take it on. I know some folks are really hoping that certainly Louise Arbour is not someone who will pull her punches. She will be very direct. She is not somebody who can be politically directed. But there's just all these questions. We don't know when her report's going to be done. We don't know that the government will be actually required to implement the recommendations because they still haven't implemented the recommendations in the 2015 report. We don't really know what this new position is that they've appointed a 3-star general to. And when I asked her yesterday, General Kirignan couldn't even explain herself really what she was going to be doing. So it kind of feels like they are under significant political pressure and they're panicking to act. Now, by the same token, I have been the person who said it's been X number of weeks. They still haven't done something. So they have been under pressure, and we in the media have been saying, what action are you going to take? I think the frustration from survivors who are hopeful but skeptical is there's still no independent reporting mechanism. And while they're saying they're committed to that, they've known they needed one since 2015. They didn't announce it yesterday. They're saying it's going to happen, but no details about it. And no timeline on when. And we're in a minority government situation. So, I think there's likely and tripartisan support to create that kind of a position. It's making survivors very nervous, and they're frustrated, saying sort of, look, you have had 6 years. What have you been doing for the last 6 years that you still not, implemented major recommendations in the Deschamps report?
Right. And if they really wanted to bring about change, they could have implemented her recommendations because the report itself was pretty scathing. And certainly the reporting, you've been reporting since 2016, about victim after victim after victim, coming forward. And then there's just no system in place to do anything. So these guys have had, a long time to implement changes that were very straightforward. And who knows where we'd be today. But they didn't. They didn't act. It's only that they're acting now that Mercedes Stephenson has been, kind of making their lives very tough.
Well, and I think too, part of it for the survivors is they were hoping, in some cases, to have a chance to really speak publicly, because there's a lot of people who I've talked to who just are not ready to sit in front of a camera and tell their story. They're still scared. They're still scared, even if there's not retribution, which, by the way, they do feel it's still a risk. They still do not trust a lot of the leadership in the military. But beyond that, it's just a very hard thing to sit and talk about something that intimate to over 1 million people watching you on TV. And there was a hope that maybe this would be sort of the floodgates opening, which in some ways it has been. But at the same time, having Justice Arbour may allow some of those victims to feel more comfortable speaking. It also isn't the public naming that would have happened if you had, for example, a public inquiry or a royal commission, which is what some folks were calling for. We have Minister Sajjan on the show this week. I'm going to be curious to ask him how they landed on this instead of the other options that were there. And also, when I talked to Madame Arbour, I asked her if she was going to be looking into John Vance, because that was one of the things the government promised. She told me she's not. So the question now is, who's looking into John Vance other than the military police, or has the government just abandoned that now and saying, look, we're going to leave it to the military police, which, okay, it's a police investigation, but there's some serious concerns about whether the military police are capable of investigating this, because they actually report to the chain of command, and whether or not a chief of the defense staff can even be tried in the military justice system, because you have to be tried by someone who outranks you. And the chief of the defense staff is the highest ranking person in the forces. So who tries him?
Right. Well, the RCMP could come in. Bottom line is, I guess they could hold the Royal Commission if they really truly want to change, but we know that's not going to happen. But how can there be any confidence in this minister? He had the complaint. He knew the nature of the complaint. Just because he didn't maybe read it word for word, he definitely knew what was going on. And this is not the first time that Harjit Sajjan has been in trouble. He's made up stories before about operations and missions that he didn't do. But how is it that the Prime Minister's standing by him? Why though?
Well, that's a good question that probably the Prime Minister could answer for you. I don't know. There's a lot of
he's got to have a soldier on his team
in Ottawa. I can tell you that Minister Sajjan is a significant fundraiser for the party. He's very popular out west. And so, forcing him out of that role could be risky. Do I think there's a possibility they might shuffle him to another role at some point? I think that's entirely possible, but I think they have made the decision clearly that they don't believe he should fall on his sword over this. And frankly, it's something we've seen when the Conservatives were in government too, where we're in an era now where ministers very rarely resign over their handling of files. Right. It used to be common. It's not anymore. And you saw them defining the very concept of ministerial responsibility and trying to put this onto the bureaucrats, which I remember 2015 when these guys were campaigning and came to power, and they criticized the Harper government because they blamed bureaucrats for everything. And yet that's exactly what we've seen here. Well, we handed it to PCO and they did nothing. We couldn't talk to anyone else. Military police say that's not true. Yes, they could have come to us. It's not political interference if there's not an investigation. And they were willing to apparently investigate Vance despite there being a police investigation, although that's now quietly fallen off the radar, and we'll certainly be asking about that on the show. But I think that it's clear to me that they don't plan at this point on Sajjan going anywhere. Does that mean he holds on to the job forever and isn't shuffled? I don't know. I'm curious to know why the minister feels that he should keep his job, and we will put that question to him. And I think it's a fair question for him to be asked. And I think that, he seemed genuinely sorry to me yesterday. I don't think it was an act, but it doesn't change the fact that he clearly didn't know what was happening in his own department, that he didn't implement any of the recommendations that were remaining from the Deschamps report, and that they are really only acting now after this has become a real pressure cooker for them politically.
Yeah, and they do have COVID. That has given them a lot of cover, because this probably would have been a much, much, much bigger scandal if not for COVID. But, now they're trying to turn it on Stephen Harper and use it against Aaron O'Toole. You guys knew about this, but, I'm not... if Stephen Harper had, any concerns about Vance having allegations against him, it didn't go very far. It was looked into, and then some investigation was closed, and then there was a change of government. So I'm not sure how much does that argument then play for the Liberals?
Well, look, I think they have a point on the fact that when you look back at what was happening with Vance when he was appointed, it sure leaves a big question mark on what the Conservatives were thinking appointing someone who was under military police investigation. That investigation, Global News learned from documents that we obtained, was closed, recommended to be closed the day that Vance was appointed. Now, I know from people who were present right after the meeting in both the Vance camp and the Harper camp that Stephen Harper asked John Vance about the allegation, and Vance assured him it was nothing. Should that have been enough? Should they have seen the police report? I've talked to senior Harper staffers who told me they never saw it. They just accepted that they were told nothing was found. Well, why was nothing found? If you look carefully at the rules, and we haven't seen the report, so we don't know, but I can tell you that the rules seem to only apply to Canadians, and the woman in question was an American subordinate. We don't know what that was.
Yeah, fiance.
And we have asked for this, by the way, and we just get like hundreds of redacted pages given to us. But should the Harper government have maybe delayed? Should they have said, I want to see that report before we appoint him? Should they have asked a lot more questions? Absolutely. Absolutely, there's culpability there as well. But the Liberals have been in power for the last 6 years. Well, they weren't aware of what happened in 2015. They were certainly aware of what happened in 2018. And they basically used the same playbook as the Conservatives, as saying, well, we don't want to look into this. We'll assign someone else, and then we really won't question or follow up what happened or whether more should be done.
Fascinating times. All right, so that'll be on Sunday with Harjit Sajjan, not to be missed, and look forward to hearing what he has to spin. Great job and great work, and stay tuned. That's all we can say. Thanks, Mercedes.
Thanks, Alex.
Alrighty, that is Mercedes Stevenson, and of course you can hear the West Block on Global News Radio 640 Toronto, Sundays 7 a.m. or on our TV properties at 11 a.m. When we come back, there is a new experiment going on in Florida Keys. They're hoping to stamp out a mosquito that threatens a whole bunch of diseases, dengue, yellow, and Zika fever, and they're preparing this weekend to release hundreds of thousands of genetically modified mosquitoes to kill off the females so they can get rid of these threatening diseases to humans. We'll talk to one of those involved in the project. That's coming up next here on Point on Global News Radio.
Time now for a check on the roads with a look at chopper traffic. Here's Ari Rabinovich.
Toronto bound on the QEW at the Burlington. Ages of 17 and 35 join the Canadian Blood Services Stem Cell Registry today. Visit blood.ca/stem cells. I'm Ari Urbanovich with Global News Radio 640 Toronto Chopper Traffic.
It was likely a mom who said life is not a dress rehearsal. And this Mother's Day, the one day dedicated to moms, is your chance to show her how grateful you are. Moms are the raw...
Flash briefing skill to Alexa. Then set it to play 640 Toronto. And don't forget, you can listen to us live anytime by telling any smart speaker to play 640 Toronto.
Spring cleaning is when homes get a new twinkle in their eye,
a new spring in their step,
and new color in their cheeks.
Call 1-800-GOT-JUNK. We'll be there before you hang up the phone.
When that shiny truck from 1-800-GOT-JUNK arrives at your house,
it's a sign of a new beginning,
a clean start,
a breath of fresh air.
When your home feels clean and happy, in 4 Ontario schools have active COVID-19 cases. 4 didn't do what experts told them to do to keep kids safe. Now the virus is out of control and we're facing school closures again. Half measures don't work. It's time to make vaccines available to all educators and frontline workers. Schools won't be safe until transmission is under control. A message from the Elementary Teachers Federation of Ontario.
Divorce can bring out the worst in human behavior.
If you're worried about losing your children, selecting the right lawyer will have a major effect on your case and your life. Brian Ludmer understands your situation. With extensive experience in both family law and business law, Brian Ludmer, author of The High Conflict Custody Battle, offers a better perspective on solutions so that your children don't suffer in the process. And that makes him the ideal choice. Brian Ludmer. Visit ludmerlaw.com. That's ludmerlaw.com.
Regain your active lifestyle with Genical Pain Relief. Genical Pain Relief is a solution to reduce joint pain in less than 5 days. Experience the relief of Genical Pain Relief, Canada's #1 selling joint care supplement. Genical Pain Relief is available at Shoppers Drug Mart, the Real Canadian Superstore, Walmart, in selected Rexall stores, and on Amazon. Learn more at painrelief.genical.ca. To ensure this product is right for you, always read and follow the label.
Genical makes me feel so good.
We are Toronto's news talk leader.
Yeah, you don't sound like it, eh? Holy.
Peru, or this map we're zooming into in Brazil. Oh, there it goes, zooming into Brazil.
Yeah.
Oh, in the center of Brazil. Woo,
Yeah.
woo, big zoom.
Yeah, and you can see the shape of a triangle.
The triangle. Mm-hmm.
Yes, that is the borders of the area that is being conserved. Otherwise, it will be deforested.
That otherwise it will be deforested is key here. Because there's a theory behind offsets that save trees.
Oh.
Trees, kind of incredible. They store carbon, suck it out of the air. Some trees get cut down every year for things like ranching or for lumber. So if a company pays to stop trees from getting cut down, then in theory, those payments prevent carbon emissions. But how is an offset buyer to know what would have happened to the trees without that payment? Maybe no loggers had plans to cut down that forest. Maybe the local government was already protecting it. Or maybe the ranchers just went down the road and cut down a different forest.
Arrow through the money.
All these questions are the reason why David Antonioli has a job.
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of Vera.
Vera's
creative and stop a threatening mosquito that spreads things like dengue, yellow, and Zika fever. And the state's getting ready to prepare to release almost 150,000 genetically modified, non-biting mosquitoes that will then bite or mate with biting females with the hope of killing off female babies. And it's called the Aedes aegypti mosquito, and it's a growing threat in places like the Florida Keys. And the release of this mosquito is supposed to roll out over the next couple of days. The idea is to get rid of this disease that jumps a lot of times from bugs to people. But I say, hey, go further. Wouldn't it be great to kill off all mosquitoes? Because frankly, they're a pain in the butt. Meredith Fensom is head of public affairs at Oxitec. She's part of this project. Good to have you.
It's good to be here. Thanks for having us.
A lot of people don't like the genetically modified stuff, but this I think they'll get their heads around because mosquitoes, I mean, for years have been a big threat of carrying disease to people. So how did this particular project get started?
So believe it or not, 10 years ago, the Florida Keys Mosquito Control District invited Oxitec to the Keys. And they invited us because they were having a dengue outbreak in Key West that could not be controlled. And the dengue outbreak could not be controlled because the Aedes aegypti mosquito could not be controlled.
Yeah, and the Keys, I mean, look, it's ripe for the growth of mosquitoes and such. It's very fertile there. But what is the hope that this will do, and how long will it take to see some of the results?
So the Florida Keys is a sensitive ecosystem. So mosquito control authorities here are looking for solutions that are more effective and that are also environmentally sensitive. And that's one of the benefits really of our technology. It's an environmental solution. It's extremely precise and targeted. There are no harmful impacts for beneficial insects like bees or butterflies. And I mean, we've worked with this technology in other geographies for years, and we've had great results, consistently over 90% suppression of the invasive disease-spreading Aedes aegypti mosquito.
And is this only going to be happening in Florida, or is this one of these projects that, if successful, could be brought to other areas like Canada or wherever this threat is starting to emerge?
Well, we've worked in other countries, and yes, I mean, certainly if we have the results in the Florida Keys that we've had in other geographies, we'd like to continue. We'd like to continue to bring this product to other communities that need it.
What about something like West Nile? I mean, that's something that we hear a lot more about. I mean, certainly dengue and the Zika fever. You hear more about that in places like Africa. But could this be done, making a genetically modified mosquito to kind of get rid of things like the West Nile virus?
So we are working in other species of mosquito, including two of the species of mosquito Anopheles species that spread malaria. And we are using this identical technology in agricultural crop pests. So we are using this technology in a number of insects, and could probably do this work with additional insects, yes.
And what about Africa itself? I mean, these are really big problems in other, mostly third nation countries. Is this something that they do over there or can do?
They haven't released, our mosquitoes have not been released on the African continent yet. And yes, we are interested in bringing our technology there. There's a lot of interest in Africa in bringing our technology to the continent. And one wonderful thing about the current generation of our technology, we have little boxes, and we put mosquito eggs, water, a little bit of food in, and after a week or so, our non-biting male mosquitoes begin to release themselves. And it's female lethal, only the males survive. But one of the nice things about this innovation and the technology is how simple and accessible and scalable it is. And we could bring it to geographies where I think it would have been harder for us to work before. But I mean, we can bring these mosquito eggs in a box, and if we have water and a bit of food, we can run one of these projects.
And does it have to be, is it time specific? Does it have to be done in the spring, or is this something that can kind of be launched whenever, or does it have to be in a particular time of year?
In our work in Brazil and what we're doing in Florida now, we usually like to get started before mosquito season is in full swing, so the mosquito population never gets up to a dangerous level.
So how, you've got 150,000 of these non-biting mosquitoes that you will release. And how long then will it take for you to start collecting the data to know if it's killing off the female babies?
So, well, we know that our technology, that this generation of our technology is male only. It won't produce any female offspring. And what we're looking at is the small areas where we're working, because this is a pilot project. It's not a Keys-wide project. We're just in some small areas. We'll be looking at how effective we are in bringing down the Aedes aegypti population in those areas. I mean, we're doing this project under the approval from the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, and there's a lot of data that they're looking for, and we'll be reporting that to them. And in our other projects, we can usually have pretty solid results in 3 or 4 months. Those aren't always published immediately, but we have a good set of data at the end of 3 or 4 months. And this first part of our project here, the phase A, it will run for about 12 weeks. Mm-hmm. And go ahead.
So I was just going to jump in. I say, could they ultimately, in the bigger picture, in time, kill off all the female babies, and can we just get rid of all the mosquitoes? I mean, I'm sure they serve a purpose somehow, but no one really loves mosquitoes.
Well, so we're targeting the Aedes aegypti only, which is invasive in the Florida Keys, and believe it or not, it makes up only 4% of the mosquito population here. But it is the, it is responsible for the transmission of mosquito-borne illness. I mean, it's that mosquito. Because sometimes people say, oh, well, it's great that your technology doesn't harm bees or butterflies, but what about the bats or the birds or the fish that might need to feed on mosquito larvae? And that's a valid point, but because the Aedes aegypti is not native to this environment, nothing depends on it. And if you remove it from the environment, you're returning the environment to its natural state. We do not necessarily want to target the native mosquito species who are a nuisance, but they're not, they're a nuisance to some humans, but they're not spreading disease. And some of the insect biomass that they provide is important. I mean, those are native species, and we're not targeting them, not with this project.
Well, I think after what we've been through with COVID and realized what these kinds of viruses can bring to our countries, I think it'll be welcome if it's a success. I appreciate your time on this, and we'll follow along and see how this journey goes.
Fever, dengue.
Thank you for the opportunity. We're happy to come back on at any time and give updates.
Best of luck to you as you launch. That is Meredith Fenton, and the group is called Oxitec, so that should be happening in the next couple of days. When we come back, we'll talk about delaying shots and some of the new data that they have gotten out of Scotland, where they're saying, look, you're only protected so much if you delay the second shot. And frankly, we've got politicians doing that for political reasons. The question is, are they putting us at risk? We'll talk about that next. Stay with us here. Now it's Pearson On Point, and this is Global News Radio.
Every year, Chorus gives hundreds of businesses an opportunity to grow. And grow. And grow by exposing them to potential customers across Canada's most powerful radio networks. And now is the perfect time with our Back to Business exclusive packages. Let us show you just how easy it is. Register to our free 30-minute consultation at chorus.online/radio today.
Ever thought of yourself as a disruptor? A member of